Good.
Welcome in for the Sharpen the Point Sunday. I don't know. What is it? Like a Sunday night, sleepy Sunday night football watch along, whatever. I mean, it's on in the background. You can kind of get the glimpse right here of the blurry my screen. But we're talking college football, and we're doing our recap of the week that was and the very early look ahead of the week three. Um, I mean, obviously, like I like to start with the what we just saw, but I want to give us credit on a couple of things, right? Because last week we sat here and I said, I feel stupid not sprinkling a little bit on a Baylor money line. I feel stupid not sprinkling a little bit on the USF money line.
Mhm.
I think I also said Kansas, which was close there for a while, but then fell apart in wonderful fashion as the game went along. But I feel like we handed out some pretty good ones last week on this Sunday show.
Yeah,
Although
our
last week
initial
was a Monday
reactions.
show, I guess.
Well, yeah, but we had a good line. We had a positive line movement on that Toledo Western Kentucky game. It was 5.5 when we got it, and it went to 7.5, and that wasn't enough. I think it was 41-7 at one point. So Toledo just dominated the lines of scrimmage. Chip Trainum, massive performance. But yeah, to
Uh,
your point, let's hit Baylor SMU right out the gate because that was the game of the day for me. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I stacked the crap out of it in DFS, and it couldn't have been more fun of a watch.
it was it. So I sent a text early in the first quarter, not early in the first quarter, but like late first quarter, and I was like, I think Baylor's offensive play calling couldn't possibly leave more to be desired. Like it was just like out of the gate, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm not sure if they're actually even trying to score points. Like it felt like like they came out and the first 15, I guess they laid out in practice, the unscripted drives, the scripted drive. I was like, I don't know what this script was supposed to be, but good God, I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
Um,
the script for SMU was highly productive. I don't know that. I think they had probably 20 points, like or 17 points by the time they finished their script.
Well, the first pass, the touchdown on the first thing was, I mean, it hit the defender right in the freaking hand. I was like, oh my God, what a bad touchdown. Of course it's gonna be a touchdown. Yep.
Yeah, I appreciated Romello Brinson coming down with that ball. He was largely unseen after that for a while
And then the
until
OT touchdown.
overtime.
Yeah.
The OT touchdown really gave me a boost. Jalen Cooper, the freshman, looked good. Brinson's the clear one in that offense. And we got to see a changing of the guard in the running back room. It was originally a pretty heavy split in that week one game. TJ Harden, as expected in my preview of SMU, I expected TJ Harden to take over that lead role and probably be 80% of Brashard Smith. He's going to be 80% of Brashard Smith, and he's taken it over already. He did come into the team very late in the offseason process, but he's taken over. Kevin Jennings looked good. But finally, I'm right that SMU they finally didn't run the table. I'm finally somewhat vindicated after a 2-year run here.
And the other thing was, I think the Baylor receiving core finally showing up because against Auburn they were kind of worthless. It was really just Trigg. Trigg got hurt in this one, and then it felt like everyone else just exploded from there.
Yeah, and Josh Cameron was always good. Though this week, what it was the entire week for me was guys, except for Ryan Wingo, guys that had bad week one performances that came back strong in week two. You saw it with Kevin Coleman for Missouri, had a really good game. The kid from Mississippi State, Anthony Evans, had a really good game. Brendan Thompson, also a good game. Josh Cameron, great game. So guys that they had like lackluster performances week one. Bryant Wesco, notably as well, had a 2-touchdown performance. I don't know what's going on with Clemson. That was a abysmal performance. Cade Klubnik looks terrible, and they're really going to need to get it together pretty quick because they have no run game, and we're going to have to figure that one out. I think the defense looked okay, but overall the offense really struggling there.
Yeah, and I want to keep it there for a second because you texted me. I mean, my phone exploded during that early window when Clemson's wheels were falling off there in the first half, and I responded with just like, I don't think what LSU did to them last week was terribly. It was the game plan won it. It wasn't necessarily like a talent level that's needed. They basically just said, Klubnik, you're going to stay in the pocket and we're going to force you to throw the ball. They cannot run it. I don't see how that's going to change. They simply cannot run the ball right now.
I think
And
they're going to have to get the freshman going, Gideon Davidson. I want to say. I
and
think
I
they're
think
going to
they
have to
got
get
him a
him
few
going.
carries towards as the game went along, but they were pounding Randall a ton. It just feels like it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and they've really got Wesco going in that second half. TJ Moore is going to need to step up. Defense played well, but I mean LSU looked sleepy too. So they really were sleepy early in that game.
Well, I think, and I think if you want to switch the LSU side of it to say, like, we learned a lot that LSU was good because they beat Clemson, and then in week 2 LSU looks terrible against Louisiana Tech. I think the first big thing was LSU center leaves the game on the very first play with an ankle injury, and the center was the only offensive lineman that they had talked about as a consistent starter. He was I think a 5th-year senior that they'd got a portal from Tech, and last year they had the 2 great tackles, but their center was terrible, and the offensive line thus was terrible. And this year, all they talked about all offseason was, yeah, we have new tackles. Yeah, we have new guards. But our center is such a veteran. He's so experienced. He's going to set the line. And Jesus, they look terrible without him in there. He's got some kind of high ankle sprain. I think he's getting an MRI. I imagine he's going to be limited all year. And that quickly makes me concerned about what LSU looks like because it's going to be low scoring. It's going to be get the ball out quick. But the other thing in that game was LSU started – I think they had 4 straight drives. They started inside of their own 10-yard line, and the offensive line just doesn't hold up long enough for them to try shots. Everything is just quick, and you can only, 12, 13 play drives, but they're ending around the 40-yard line, and they got a punt. And that was a very tough watch, and I am certainly concerned about what that team looks like going forward.
Yeah, Nick Anderson at least got some run. It was good to see him out there. Aaron Anderson, obviously the top wideout for them, looked good as usual. Caden Durham had a terrible day on the ground running. It was like 2 yards a carry. So that was a bit of a struggle. But look, we'd be remiss if we didn't go right into one of our favorite teams coming into the year, a favorite of yours from NCAA last year. Byron Brown. I texted you and said there was a rumor going around that he was out at a frat party and was
You
suspended
cost
for
me
the
some
first
money
half.
there. That was brutal. It's okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's what I heard. Once it hits my chat, then I'm pretty confident in it, and nobody refuted it. But he ended up playing, and he led the team in rushing. He threw the ball. They did enough. That defense is solid. But man, is the DJ Lagway hype going away? Is everybody finally going to start coming more towards the middle to me on this thing? I think everybody was way too high. They were all in that Nico, like Jackson Arnold. I've just seen this with too many quarterbacks at this point where, and I'm calling out Bud Elliott directly for his DJ Lagway hype and I would say his lack of boosting of my favorite player in the country, Rocco Becht, who continues to just will teams to victory. So Jaden Ball looked good in that game. He proved he was good. Vernell Brown, the true freshman wide receiver, looks great. Eugene Wilson, he got positive yardage this week. We're always happy to see that. But ultimately, Lagway not mobile. Lagway still hasn't put up a big game against a good team. And I think USF is set up for a run right here where they could make a play for this playoff spot for sure.
Yeah, if they, I was talking about this with my friends this weekend. If they win in Coral Gables this week, I'm willing to talk about them as one of the top 4 seeds. That would be an insanely impressive 3-game run to go Boise, Florida, Miami. Now, again,
yeah.
I think the 3 are probably
overrated.
Each overrated, correct. But if we're going to sit here at the end of the year and we're going to do resume building, and they have a perennial Group of 5 powerhouse in Boise State W on the resume, a road victory over an allegedly good to great SEC team, and we can get into Florida in a second. I know you just kind of mentioned it, and I'm starting with the USF side of things, and an allegedly good to great ACC team. I don't know what more you want them to do. They scheduled hard. If they run the 3 of them, I'm okay if they take a loss somewhere along the way, and I think they should still probably end up being a leader in the clubhouse for this. Like I think if they manage to win this Saturday, which is a very tall ask, because doing it once is fine, doing it twice is great. Doing it a third time is very hard, especially when I think Miami's the best of the three teams by a decent margin, considering, like you said, I think DJ Lagway still kind of sucks. Um, it's just not there. It's the same thing we talked about last week with Arch Manning, when my friends going into week one were like, dude, Arch Heisman got, he's the best thing. He's going to be the number one overall pick. And I'm like, could I see it first? And,
Yeah.
and it's coming into the year when they were like, well, best quarterbacks in the SEC. It's going to be Arch Manning number one, DJ Lagway number two, Sellers number three, Nussmeier number four, and then a list. And I'm like, I don't understand how we just put people one and two before we see it. Can I
See, and
see it
that's
happen?
yeah, and that's why coming into the year, I had Nussmeier 1. I had Sellers in that top 3. I probably put I don't think I know I didn't have Lagway. I believe I might have put Arch,
Jackson
but
Arnold
I think
and
I did not put
John
Jackson Arnold.
Mateer.
I love Jackson Arnold. I did not put John Mateer. I'm fairly certain I did put Arch, but it was for the clickbait. That's all.
Come
Like
on.
you got to
Come
include
on.
Arch for that reason. But point being here, like if you look at USF, man, there's a reason why Byron Brown was in my top 3 G5 quarterbacks, and this is why. Because anytime he touches the field, he has a chance to win the game by himself. He does not need a ton of help. He can carry a team and will a team. Now, their defense is playing out of this world right now, and they get a nice rest after Miami with South Carolina State, Charlotte, North Texas, and Florida Atlantic. But those two teams have a ton of offense between those two before they get this nasty 3-game stretch with Memphis, UTSA, and Navy, which is another huge test. I agree with you. If they run the table with this schedule, and I think they lose this week, and I think they drop another game, maybe 2 in their conference
It's a
schedule.
very hard schedule.
It's a very hard schedule. If they did run the table, though, they deserve to be a top 4 seed because there's going to be no team. Now, Notre Dame's already lost, so, I mean, they can't get a seed anyway. But they should be ranked over the top Big 12 team if Iowa State even ran the table. And they should be ranked over whatever ACC team it is, probably, depending on if somebody runs the table. But every ACC team hadn't exactly looked good. Now SMU's lost a game. Miami would have lost to these guys. Louisville didn't exactly bang the drum against JMU last week. I was happy just to keep it within 21, and that was a 7-point game late in the game.
Yeah, it was.
So I don't. And then Clemson looked terrible against Troy. If these guys run the table, they're top. They might be the 3 seed. Very well.
And it's a very tough ask, right? Because college football is hard enough as it is to not overreact to the things we see. It's the thing we do all the time. It's the reason you crushed it this week, like you said. Everyone overreacted to week 1, and you said, Hey, I know there's talent. I'm not pumping the brakes. I'm just going to stick with the guys that I've got, and I'm going to ride them and let it go from there." Couple other games I wanted to touch on. Oregon absolutely dragging Oklahoma State. I don't see how Mike Gundy survives the season there. I feel like that one certainly he tried to be like, it's NIL, it's going to be NIL. That's the reason, before they absolutely got destroyed. And that seemed to have been a mistake. Illinois looks like a team that I think is going to make the playoff. I just don't see at this point. Altmaier looks fantastic. The defense looks great. They create turnovers. They put a lot of pressure on the opposing quarterback. They looked fantastic and absolutely dominated the second half of that game.
Yeah, Duke's very one-dimensional, and that's an impressive win because this is a very good Duke team. So I think we're going to learn real quick. I think Duke is underrated by the time when they go to Tulane this week. I think they beat up on Tulane pretty good. So, yeah.
Perfect time for me to sneeze there as you left my gap to come back in. So, sorry. The other one I wanted to mention too, we touched on it for a second. We did mention Mississippi State, Arizona State as another spot to sprinkle money lines. So salute to us there. They tried to choke that with the brutal roughing the passing call before halftime. That ended up costing them 3 points. That played a very large role in the end of the game. But then, of course, Mississippi State gets the blown coverage to win it anyway. Elsewhere, you already mentioned your guy Rocco Becht. Ole Miss looked gross again against Kentucky. Austin Simmons with some truly horrendous throws. That feels like the same team as a year ago. I mean, Ole Miss just seems kind of the same. Like, I feel like he's probably just a slight downgrade from Jackson Dart, maybe even more than that. I just feel like that's kind of the same team, and we'll see how they perform going forward.
The fact that Kentucky's offense looked better against Ole Miss than Toledo,
Yeah.
I'm somewhat concerned with that.
Yeah. Elsewhere, I just other teams I wanted to quickly mention. Auburn still looks pretty good. We've talked a couple of times how much we like that receiving core. I think they've got Oklahoma as the big game in 2 weeks. So I think that's the one. We'll see what Auburn actually looks like. I think they have South Alabama coming up first. Elsewhere, you mentioned it. Kansas State with 6 possessions against Army in the entire game. I think they had 1 in the second half. Just Army did what Army does and just absolutely choked the life out of that game.
41 carries for their quarterback. Their back, the backup, Cale Helms, 41 carries. He averaged 3 yards a tote, which is just enough to get a first down on 4 downs.
Tulane, the team that's going to probably contend for that group of 5 playoff spot, survives a real scary one against USA. South Alabama there on the road. Elsewhere, I mean, the Michigan State Boston College game was pretty fun, going to double overtime.
Yeah, that was a solid game. Turbo Richard looked good. Dylan Lonergan, the quarterback from the Alabama transfer at BC, he looks great. Nick Marsh, wonderful wide receiver for Aiden Childs at Michigan State. They were really putting on a show there. And on the depths of stinky teams, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the Ohio Bobcats winning 17-10 against West Virginia. One of channel favorite Parker Navarro and my second favorite G5 running back, Sia Bangura, absolutely just running the ball down the throats of the Mountaineers and winning that game. Ohio is going to be a team to look out for when it comes to MAC scheduling. Them and Toledo is going to be the MAC game of the year when they finally do match up. And it's in action.
Before we get to Oklahoma and Michigan, I did want to also flip out there for you in case you wanted to talk about it. Goldbranson versus Bachmeier.
Awful game. Watched it. Not great. I actually had that on the main TV, but I had
San Diego State, Washington State.
No, DeMond Williams and his Heisman candidacy that's getting stolen currently by Jonah Coleman and his 5 touchdowns a game. But the other game that was on in the background was Nico Iamaleava and his atrociousness in UCLA's loss to UNLV in the Fighting Dan Mullins, who are now 3-0 and going to be pushing for that G5 playoff spot as well. The Whoopsie Daisy King tried to throw it away, though. The Whoopsie Daisy King, I don't know if you saw it. He was in his own end zone. It was at like the 5-yard line, falling down. And he decides, hey, we're up 2 scores. I'm going to try to throw this ball away. He underhands it right to the defensive lineman who runs it back for a touchdown. Luckily for him, his knee was down. And so they ended up getting to punt, but he tried to throw that game away. Dan Mullen, very angry with Jaden Bradley, their number 1 wide receiver. Jaden Bradley apparently had a little taunting issue after their first touchdown, and he did not allow him to see the field ever again. So that was a slightly entertaining issue, we'll say. But yeah, go with your Nico thought.
Well, so I mean, everyone wants to talk about Nico overplaying his hand with the NIL thing, and I would argue that I think him and the family were like, hey, bud, I think you might not be as good as we think, and I think everyone may be about to find that out. So let's go ahead and grab that bag while we still can. And everyone's like, oh, see, if he'd have just shut up and stayed at Tennessee. I'm like, I think he needed to try and grab the bag while he could, because it seems like the bag's leaving without him.
So you're saying they had the you're going to go pro in something other than sports conversation with him.
Yeah, I'd be like, I think you're going to be selling insurance soon. So maybe we go ahead and get this dub. Let's go snag that bag real quick right now. get you a couple years of selling pickup trucks out the way because this ain't
He
gonna work
did.
out.
He did finally start running the football a little bit more, so maybe there's some upside going forward. But they're going to get destroyed. I do want to hit on this Missouri Kansas game real quick
Yeah,
because I thought Jalen Daniels actually did look healthy and good, but that Missouri defense is legit.
yeah, they're
Uh,
good.
I think they're going to be a team that guys are going to want to look out for in the SEC because underratedly, Bo Pribula, he went 30 of 39 for 334 and 3 in this game. Like, and he can run. So he's dangerous. Kevin Coleman was very good at Mississippi State. 10 for 126 and 1 in this game. The tight end was dominating. I think Ahmad Hardy, 25 carries for 112 and a tud. Like they ran for 261 yards. They threw for 334 yards. They got a really good defense. That defense has not fallen off with Barker's defection to LSU 2 years ago. I think Missouri, Eli has got this thing rolling.
Well, and it's funny because as close as that game certainly felt like it was, they outgained them 595 to 226.
Yeah.
I mean, they were dominant. So yeah, it certainly felt like a chippy rivalry renewed, and I'm glad it was. That game deserves that kind of feel, and it was a fun watch. It was a good game, and yeah, I think Missouri is a legit contender. I believe they're ranked this week. I just saw the polls a minute ago, but I
They should
can't remember.
be.
I
There's
think they should.
enough ranked teams lost now.
Yeah, I think they were flirting right there at the end, 23 or something like that.
Uh, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Lastly
because
from
this
this
has got
week,
to
I
be
guess,
Michigan.
yeah, the Oklahoma Michigan game.
I'm not going to hate on Underwood like I hate on Lagway. I'll tell you that right now. I'm
Yeah,
in no way will I hate on Underwood. I know he was 9 to 24. I told you last week I thought Venables is going to have something for Underwood, and I think they have MAC level wide receivers. There's no talent on the outside. When Samaj Morgan goes out, they've got FCS level wide receivers at that point. Like they just do not have enough talent. Justice Haynes did everything he could, but outside of that 75-yard run, he had 18 carries for 50 yards. I mean, live betting that game was so easy because you could tell that Michigan was never going to be able to move the football because Underwood can't throw the ball. Oh, he doesn't have a weapon to throw the ball deep to. So, and Mateer was, he looked like prime Reggie Bush running the ball out there.
yeah,
I mean, I'm
he was just
impressed
hopping
right
around.
now. The fact that he's throwing the ball this well and running it well is really impressive. They need a healthy Jaden Ott back there, though,
Yeah, I was
and
just
they
about to put that
need
one.
Dion Burks to stay healthy because otherwise, that there are keys to that team being a playoff contender.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a team that's very good, and but my concern is exactly what you mentioned. What is Jaden Ott? What does he look like as the year goes along? Is it just going to be Mateer doing everything? How long does that last? Obviously, it held up well enough against Michigan here. I think this largely had to do with just kind of leaning on them all game. It felt like they just constantly were all over this team. They could not move the ball, and it just felt like they just kind of kept chipping away, and that was enough to do it. Um, on the Bryce Underwood side of things, I think to your point, it's a freshman game to Venables on the road. I'm not terribly concerned about it. We'll see what it looks like as time goes on. It was kind of interesting to me that we did the whole week one. He looks great against, was that New Mexico?
Yeah, it was worst team in the country on defense last year.
Yeah, and when everyone was just like, best quarterback prospect since Cam Newton. He's going to take the world by storm. Heisman on the table. And I'm like, guys, I don't know why we do this with everything. It's the biggest thing in college football that I think is allowed me to be successful in picking games and those sorts of
Yeah,
things. It's just like
fade the public.
everyone overreacts to everything. And it's just, let's just ease it up. Right. And the same thing this weekend with Alabama. They're dead. They're never going to win. Here comes ULM. They beat Saban. They're totally going to beat DeBoer. Bro, it's still ULM versus Alabama. I
Hey,
mean,
can we finally say that Jeremy Bernard, man? I think Jeremy Bernard is the straw that serves the drink on that offense.
He was certainly the best player I had last night by a lot. My
Oh,
lineups were pretty
you
rough,
must not
but
have played my Jaden Maeva, Makai Lemon stacks with Bernard.
Moving on to next weekend. Yeah, no, I missed that one. Yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah.
I don't know. You and I talked about this beforehand. That there isn't a ton in terms of matchups, in terms of
No.
jumping off the page. I think game day is doing Georgia, Tennessee, which
You know where big
intriguing.
noon you know where big noon kickoff is?
Yeah, it's Oregon at Northwestern.
Why?
And I saw that and I just it was the thing that like hit me in the face where like the reason college game day is number one still and will not lose it is because Big Noon is an infomercial for Fox, whereas
Yeah.
College Game Day is an infomercial for college football,
Yeah.
and that is a strong difference in the programs. And I understand you can sit here and you know if you're the ACC fan or the Big 12 and you're like, "Oh, well it's the SEC show and the Big 12 show." Like game day will go to Washington State. Game day will go to JMU. They will go to the game wherever the game is. And Fox is going to go to the game that they air on noon.
JMU's had
That's
more college game day games than LSU has since I've come down here, or since in the last 5 years.
I mean, I believe it. Well, I mean, what has LSU done in the last 5 years that warranted a game day? I mean, but
Well,
that's the thing. Like, they're going to the game. Like, they're going to go to the game, and Fox is going to go to whatever they're airing on Fox, and that's just so. It just
it doesn't
that's what
help
frustrates
them.
me. It feels inauthentic. It just feels like an inauthentic show. Like I'm
Well,
supposed to want to watch the hype for Northwestern.
I'm fine if they wanna go to the second best game of the week. They can't go to the game that College Game Day's at,
Sure,
right? But
you
how
want
are
to go to
you
the you want to
not
go to the
at
Big Ten game. I get it.
they can be the Midwest thing if they want. If they wanna say, "Hey, College Game Day, you do those Southeast games all the time. We're gonna do Midwest." How are you not at Texas A&M Notre Dame this week?
You could. I mean, I could even make an argument if you wanted to hear. I mean, I if I said here is Oregon at Northwestern, and I said I'm going to be the Midwest pregame show, right? I could argue for Wisconsin and Alabama. I could
Oh,
argue,
no.
wh-
That would have
but
been as bad of a choice.
oh come on,
That's as
Northwestern.
bad of a choice. It's at Wisconsin might be worse than Northwestern.
You think I just don't? That's a 2-0 football team at least.
I think I think that team might not win 3 games all year.
It's certainly possible, but I mean, you have Oregon State and Texas Tech. You could do a whole show around here comes Texas Tech growing into this
Oh,
great
yeah.
program.
Oh,
You could build a whole
100%.
thing around it.
Yeah, I mean, Texas Tech's legit. Like, they need to lean into Fox needs to lean into if they want the Big 10 and the Big 12. They need a second conference or something else to draw from because they're just amply afraid that they're going to hype up the A&M Notre Dame game, and then the A&M Notre Dame probably is on NBC, and then they're going to be angry that people are going
It
to watch
is.
that game in the late slate. But, like, watch it. Like,
You could.
you
I
got to
mean,
present a product.
but that's the thing. They need to win over other. They need to be able to say to someone besides the Big Ten that, hey, we are your premier college football pregame show. And again, game day's going to Georgia, Texas, or Georgia, Tennessee. You could go to Miami. You could do South Florida, Miami
I mean, how many times did game day go to games that were on CBS at 2:30
all
during
the
their
time.
tenure?
All
It
the
was
time.
every week.
I, I don't understand being just the Big Ten's mouthpiece. It's what takes your credibility. But at the same time,
Yeah.
you hired Portnoy, and that's what you decided you were going to be. I mean, you decided you're going to be the Big Ten's talking piece. That's fine. I assume just take Mark Ingram off the panel, replace him with Monty Ball. You know, take Matt Leinart off, replace him with I don't know Graham Mertz. And let's just keep it moving. I guess I don't know. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Regardless, the games next week after we've completely destroyed Big Noon, um, kind of okay. The ones that stand out to me the most, Florida obviously losing to USF now goes to LSU. I mentioned LSU's issues on the offensive line. That one is LSU minus a touchdown. I don't hate taking Florida plus a touchdown there, just
It's
because
actually
I'm very concerned
9.5
with what
now.
LSU's offense looks like.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Florida plus 9.5 now.
I think as we learn tomorrow that LSU center may be out this weekend. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if that game is something very similar to Clemson, where that game is 3, 4, 5 points. I just struggle to see how LSU generates offense with a horrid offensive line.
I think my favorite number would be under 50.5.
Yeah, I like that. I think both offenses are going to be bad.
I agree with
Yeah.
you, Darren. We had an impromptu. We did not plan at all to rip the big noon kickoff,
Thank you,
but it
Darren.
sucks. It just I can't. I don't watch it. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
watch
there's no reason to. And as much as and I'm more than happy to look for alternatives because I felt very sad watching the McAfee ending game day. And I know that Corso wasn't there all last year, but or for a lot of last year as well. But to go from the week one big Corso spelt out on the field at the shoe to that, I was like, oh, okay.
it. Yeah,
Next up, Clemson at Georgia Tech.
got it.
You
It's
know,
must watch TV.
we talked about it earlier, right? Clemson has to figure it out, and um, they got to figure it out right now because they're not going to be afforded to do what they did to Troy this week. And now it's their turn to go on the road. What does Georgia Tech's home crowd look like? I don't know, but
Well,
that team certainly
also
should have some hype.
yes, but at the same time, and I need this question answered. Remember, I texted you.
I
Haynes
love
King
Texas.
didn't play last week.
Yes.
Aaron Philo started. I think they're saving him. I think they're like, hey, Haynes, we just need you healthy for these 7 games. Otherwise, we're going to let Philo play because Haynes King didn't play at all. And that's a 5.5 point spread. I like Georgia Tech. I've mentioned them as a sleeper to win that conference. And that he's going to have to run the heck out of the football. He's going to take a beating in this game. And he took a beating in that Colorado game, just willing them to victory.
Well,
It
that's
might
why I think
it
it makes
might be a
sense.
flop lag. It might be flop lag, and Clemson just comes out and just smacks them.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it
we'll
certainly
see.
could be if he's actually banged up, but I mean, I just think of him as a gritty player who's just going to play through it. And I think they had to be like, hey, you need to sit, you need to stop. Let's take a week. It's okay. It's Gardner Webb. We'll be fine. Chill.
Yeah, he
We'll regroup
started
for next week.
games where he couldn't even throw last year and ran for 100 yards and 3
Right.
touchdowns. Haynes
Uh,
King experience.
do you have large thoughts on Georgia Tennessee? I'm trying to find games I think here that are worth really going into. At
I
that
don't
spread
see
I've
how
got
this
there
is
is
6.5.
7.
Yeah, I got 6.5. I don't see how they keep it that close. I'm not a Joey Aguilar believer. And I think their wide receiver core stinks. I don't think we're pricing that in yet, that their wide receiver core is just absolutely terrible. Their running game's okay, but they beat up on a bad team last week. They beat up on Syracuse, who lost to UConn, or maybe beat them in overtime. I don't remember, but it was a terrible game against UConn. And UConn's not great either. Jim Mora doing a great job there, though. They used to be the worst team in the country. But I mean, to parlay that into a 6.5 point spread against Georgia, that doesn't seem right. Something doesn't pass the smell test there. I would heavily lean into Georgia.
Georgia has struggled to run the ball so far this year against their 2 weaker opponents. Last week, that just on the short yardage, like, okay, Georgia 3rd and 1 against who was it last week? It totally just fell off my mind. Marshall was the week before, but it was like, oh, they're definitely going to pick this up, and it was like stuff for a loss of 2. And I'm like, okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting. So I'm curious what Georgia actually looks like. Austin P. But yeah, I mean, I'm not willing. I would still lean Georgia. I mean, even then, under 49.5 feels probably right too. Um, Georgia's
yeah.
on the road. I don't know. It's a gross one that I would probably just take the under and walk away from.
I would take I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I would take under Tennessee team total. I don't
Ooh.
even know what it comes out to, but that's 24.75 minus 3.25. So that's 21. I'll take under 21 on Tennessee's team total.
Now that I could buy. The USF game, Miami is 16.5 point favorites. I don't know what number you have.
16 and a
Um,
half. Yeah. No
yeah,
shot.
and a total of 54. I don't know. I really like USF, but we talked about it, right? This is a tough game to win. Um, I just don't know. I mean, I'm not willing to believe that Carson Beck is that good, and I'm not willing to believe that USF can do this thing forever. So, like, I know the shoe's going to drop on USF at some point. 17 feels like a big number. I mean, I like it. I wouldn't be afraid to put it in a teaser, but I'm a little afraid of it.
I would be absolutely scared to death of it. I just
Yeah.
think the defense for Miami scares me. I think Miami can generate enough offense because their running backs are really good, and Jaden Baugh did a good job against them. And their wide receiver, I like that kid Tony, the freshman. So he's good enough, explosive enough that if he catches a big play, I think that number's in play. I do think that line is going to end up moving down to about 15, maybe 14 and a half, because I think South Florida is going to get some steam.
Yeah, sign me up for Arkansas money line at Ole Miss. There, I got them as 10-point underdogs there. I don't hate that at all. I definitely take the 10 and be more than happy to sprinkle on a little, like I said, little money line there. Just in regards to, I don't really trust Ole Miss yet, and I've got to see a lot different from them. I thought Austin Simmons looked pretty bad last week. Just Calzada and that crew could not really take advantage.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I like it's not hunting season yet either, so Arkansas will still have fans in the stands.
It's at Ole Miss, but yeah,
Well, yeah,
they'll
but
have a
they'll show up. They
okay.
wouldn't have anybody.
Wouldn't it be a total? Well, that'd be blue and red, I guess, regardless. Do you have an interest in Texas A&M Notre Dame? I know you mentioned it earlier in terms of a game
I
they
think it's a
should
great
go
game.
to. Another low total,
Mhm.
7-point game spread on that one as well.
Yeah,
Um, but it's the same thing where I don't necessarily know what I trust. I feel like I like Notre Dame quite a bit based on the way CJ Carr rebounded in that game, the opener. On the road, now they're going to do it at home. I feel probably a little better there. I just don't really trust Marcel Reed.
I do not trust Marcel Reed whatsoever. I thought that A&M offensively has looked pretty daggone good the first couple weeks of the season, albeit against some lesser competition. But defensively, they have been on the struggle bus. UTSA had a Robert Henry ran for like 175 yards in the opener, and then last week they were hemorrhaging points. Le'Veon Moss hasn't recovered from his injury fully, so they're not giving him a full workload. Ruben Owens has been perpetually injured since he was a 5-star recruit. Casey Concepcion, how much do you want to trust him? So they've really kind of like slow rolled some of these offensive players in here, and they lack depth at those weapons. But their defense is still uh, has a lot of question marks against the run, certainly. So that would be my biggest concern. Now, granted, that negates completely if Notre Dame decides, hey, Jeremiah Love, we're going to give you 4 carries through 3 quarters in a big game.
The two other games that have my interest here as I'm getting to the end of the list. Vandy's at South Carolina, and Duke is at Tulane. If I put them both out there for you, which one interests you the most?
Do Tulane. I think that is a key game for Tulane. Tulane has a couple really big games coming up between this one and the next one, and they're big non-con games. I really think Duke bounces back here. I'm still worried. Maurice Turner was out last week for Tulane. Retzloff is not great. I still don't think he's a very good quarterback, and Mintz is playing his old team, so I really think Duke is very good. I would definitely lay the points with Duke. That spread was tighter than I thought. They're actually a dog at Tulane, so
Yeah, I
I'll
was
take that
surprised by
money
that
line.
too. I'm curious which side of the revenge game you're the public ends up being interested in as the week goes along. Is it Mensa going back to Tulane, or is it Tulane against the quarterback who left them? I'm very curious which side of that the public takes. I'm with you. I think I like Duke. I like Manny Diaz as a defense. And I don't. I mean, you just saw USA kind of push Tulane to the brink there in the fourth last week. I'm
Yeah, but I don't think anybody else pays attention to that. The
no, I
public
don't.
doesn't. The public only sees Illinois just mud stomping Duke late in that game. But the final score of that Duke game's what stands out, not the fact that it was a close game. Cooper Barkate, he's quickly becoming channel favorite to be talked about at wide receiver for Duke. He is going to have a monster game in that game.
How about this Vandy at South Carolina spread 5.5 with the total at 47?
I think it's fair because outside of Sellers in the run game is really going to be the key there. Man, that's such a tough game because you never know what Pavia is going to do. You just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And Virginia Tech kind of dominated Vandy early in that game. And we've already seen Virginia Tech play South Carolina. So we've really got a small sample size for these three teams playing.
Yeah.
Because Virginia Tech's played both of them in the first two games.
Yeah, and they each get to check the tape on how they played Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's a
oh,
really odd
they did that. They did
situation.
that. Okay, great. Yeah, I just don't know because Vandy really dominated that second half for Virginia Tech, where it felt like South Carolina almost stole the Virginia Tech game. I don't know. I don't know where to fall on that one because, like you mentioned, which version of Pavia do we get?
Who knows?
And that's the hardest thing to tell. Um, I'm sure as the week goes along, I'll get some kind of gut feeling, and my guess is I'll likely end up doing the thing where I just pick up the points in a game with a low total because I seem to love doing that. I'm like, you give me a total sub 50, and then you give me like near a touchdown. I'm like, I'm just gonna take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. It's a game that probably ends 20-25. Give me 5 points. That's fine with me.
Yep. No, 100% agree. That's where we're at, man.
Yeah, I don't really love next week's slate. It wouldn't be one I'd be terribly upset if, you decided to take the weekend and have your friend get married and go to your cousin's house and see their baby or something. I don't necessarily love it. My favorite is that noon game, the Clemson Georgia Tech, and otherwise I'm kind of indifferent about the rest of it. There's some intrigue, but nothing I would certainly say clear the calendar, make sure you're in front of the TV. But I don't know, the way this year has started, I think we could certainly learn a lot about a lot of teams if you're paying close enough attention. So any other last thoughts?
No, I'm going to be glued to this thing.
Soccer.
I have no other way to do it. We're going to have 3 monitors going at the same time, 3 4 games going. I don't have any other way about it. I have no other choice in life.
We've got the TV set up in the backyard with the new pool, and it's certainly been wonderful to like spend a Saturday, flip on the TV, turn the speakers on, and just sit there and just watch
Yep.
the games. We were
But
posted
you
up
got to
on.
blow that pool up first.
No, it's in ground, baby. We're living large, man. We were sitting there with the Auburn game on the TV. I had my computer playing a handful of others on the side. I'm like, what I really need to do is my wife's got a projector, and I need to
Yeah.
just put that up, beam it up on the wall right next to it, and get the quad box up there. Main game on the big TV, a little quad box on the side, and let that rip because, um, we're degenerates. That's my wife yesterday was like, why is it recommending that we watch Akron, Nebraska? And
Yes.
I was like, well, the algorithm learns me.
And
That
it
should explain
knows.
it, right? Yeah, that should.
It knows.
Yeah,
There's
it
nothing wrong
knows.
with that.
It knows I've got a sprinkle somewhere on that, right? So
Yep. So we'll have first looks coming as soon as DK drops the slate. And then when FanDuel drops their slate, that'll be coming up this week. And then we'll have lineup builders on Thursday, Friday, as usual. And then we will have the underrated game of the week. It's already been picked. I just got to write it up. And I'm hoping that finally I get a close game because I've picked 2 games that were very consequential. I also got the bet right in both. I'm 2-0 on the bet. I'm turning into Lee Corso of the G5. But I'm just hoping I get a game that's within a couple scores. But I've had this one pegged for a few weeks, so I'm excited to talk about it.
and it didn't come up today.
It did not come up today. No, I purposefully am staring at it, and I was hoping you wouldn't bring it up, but you haven't. So I'm very excited.
Perfect. You're welcome. Well, all right, man. I appreciate it. As always, I'm gonna tune into the lineup builders and use those to set my own lineup. So I'd certainly tell others to do the same since I'm out here doing it.
Darren, I've debated doing content for like the late slates. I've tried to hit Thursday. It's just a weird turnaround. And because of there's just so much more money in the main slate than there is in the side slates. And my volume's heavy on the main slate because I'm playing the big, like the 100K, 50K tournaments. Whereas like the smaller ones, there's 20s and 10s. There's just not as big a volume. I'm playing all of them. I just don't. It's just if you guys wanted the appetite for the content, like yeah, I can throw it out. But it's just a question of how many people want to digest that much content on a weekly basis. So hopefully, eventually, I'm hoping I can do every slate and everything. It just might not have a first look. It would just be a lineup builder. Cool.
Aaron's in.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I think when we get to it, we can rip some of that stuff. No doubt about it. We'll try to bring as much content as possible because it's just me feeding exactly what I'm would be doing not
It's
live.
it's basically what you do at home anyway, just
Yeah.
live. Yeah.
It's all of the scary thoughts in my head put onto video.
Yeah, which is better than you texting it just to my phone and let the others see it.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where Brian gets a 10 text string, so he's
Yeah.
he's
I
uh
look back at
he's
my phone and I'm
appreciative.
like, "Oh, Jesus, what happened?"
Yeah. Yeah, Noah
Uh,
Whittington. I've never tilted a 4 carry, 91 yards and a touchdown more than Noah Whittington.
yeah.
So, that's a good place to stop tonight, boys. All
Yeah.
right, y'all enjoy it. We'll see Brian again next Sunday. He's going to be a
Yep.
recurring show here to kind of get us off on the right foot. And then Zay Flowers is going to shimmy his way towards the end zone right now. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Goodbye.
It's Boston